What's up, everybody? I'm very excited to announce our next guest, John from Tesla Owners Silicon Valley. How's everything going, man?
Good, good. Excited to start the new year. Thankfully, even though it doesn't feel like much has changed, I'm pretty pumped for this upcoming year and really excited for the outlook, not only for my own personal work and family life, but just for Tesla as well.
Right, yeah. 2020 has been a little rough for everybody, so something to look forward to. Yeah, so give a background on yourself, who you are, and kind of how you got into Tesla.
Yeah, of course. So I founded the Tesla Owners Silicon Valley. So we are actually an official partner to Tesla. So that's why we get to use their logo. So some of you may see a lot of Tesla owners clubs, but obviously where we're unique is that we are centrally located where the headquarters, at least currently, is in Palo Alto, in the Bay Area. So we have a special connection with the headquarters. And then also too, just especially with Elon specifically through Twitter, as you can probably see. But yeah, so I work in finance and the tech, obviously being based out of here. But when I found out about Tesla, I actually, probably a little bit later start, I think even than yourself, really 2017. And that was really, actually my wife was the one some of our neighbors were actually getting rid of their reservations because they couldn't, either someone backed out or whatever. So I started to look into Tesla at that point, but really she started it all, which is kind of not the norm, right? I mean, and so, typically, at least, especially within the Tesla community, it's all a bunch of guys, but, she actually really started it. And then at that point, that's when I became an investor. And then obviously, got my first Model 3 as well. So, that's kind of how I got started. And then from there, I started a Twitter because that's where Elon was. I had been on Twitter, on personal accounts, but then you find out about this kind of like untapped community that is pretty epic and very close knit, especially back even 3 years ago, because of all the FUD and everything that Tesla Q was trying to just destroy this company. And so it was very tight knit, especially with those people. So I've known people from Twitter perspective, like for 3 years. I've met a lot of them, and they've all become some dear friends of mine. So it's crazy how we've all kind of grown together with the company.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome. Again, if it wasn't for you or other Twitter people or Tesla people spreading the word, like you said, all the Tesla shorts and everything, all the FUD and everything that they were going on. So it was good that, we had a platform to express, the true knowledge and everything that was going on. And it's funny because we have a pretty similar kind of parallel on how we came about Tesla. We were investors at first, and we got the car. And then again, we see this untapped community on
Yep.
Twitter. I joined Twitter specifically because of Elon and his updates on there. And then, yeah, that's basically why I started my YouTube channel, is because there's just so much information to get out there that's not out there yet. It's very excited times moving forward and stuff like that. Yeah, so you're doing a lot of stuff with Silicon Valley page and everything. That's awesome. I love it. I just saw that you guys became a nonprofit, which is freaking awesome. So what are you guys currently doing, and what do you guys have going forward?
Yeah, so we are obviously, so we're now a 501c. It's been a 2-year process. The club's been founder funded really up until recently. And so we are a car enthusiast and activist group. And so we love cars. So, you have a lot of people that are old, like Porsche owners, Honda Civic owners. They just love cars. So we're just getting together. But we're also an activist group because obviously, being a part of the Tesla mission, you kind of just become an automatic activist. So some of the stuff we've done in the past, right, is which kind of goes into part of, being a car enthusiast group, but also activist group, is in the past, we do cars and coffee. We'll do drives. So we'll drive from here to like Monterey Bay, or here to Pebble Beach, some beautiful scenery. We'll drive off of Summit Road, which is pretty much on top of like a hill cliff, and you can just see into the valley. But then we'll do things like, Earth Day and Drive Electric Week. So in the past, we've worked with some of the other nonprofits to actually provide a bunch of different Teslas for new owners, or, people that are interested in electric cars to drive. And then, we've actually helped with, various policies that could impact decisions that are made by the law, specifically not with Tesla, but just in partnership with Tesla. It's always better to have locals, or not only locals, other residents of the valley, rather than just Tesla showing up to really kind of give their voice. It just makes a big impact. So that's kind of like what we're doing. Obviously with COVID, a lot of stuff's been shut down. So we've probably been one of the groups that has taken probably a little bit more of like, we've kind of just shut down most of our events. This upcoming year, assuming, the vaccine, everything gets out, we want to do a big takeover for Fireball, which is now the second largest supercharger in the world, second to a new one that just launched in China. That's 72 stalls. The one that we have about two hours away is 56 to 60 stalls. So we're going to do a huge takeover, a bunch of giveaways, and then just like get everyone together, since our last event was really like, I think last February. We've been doing a lot of virtual meetups, interviewing other, Twitter Tesla community people like Ryan McCaffrey from Ride the Lightning, and some other people. Ross Gerber, if you follow if you're into finance, that's one of the Tesla bulls out there. I've met him personally, but he also came on one of our live interviews. So that's kind of what we've been up to. But yeah, we'll be doing, Earth Day, Drive Electric Week, assuming things open up, but also 2 other ride and drives as well.
That's awesome, man. You're doing so many good things for the community, pushing the EV envelope. Me personally and a bunch of other people appreciate all the work that you've done. Talk about your experience with the car itself, when you first got it, when you bought it, and your first experiences with it. We're talking about autopilot and kind of the software aspect with the over-the-air updates with it.
Yeah, of course. I'll give a quick brief journey, because I've had 3 Teslas in less than 2 years, and it was partially just because my family needs were adapting. So I got the Model 3 long range back, and then from there I got the Performance Model 3. So literally, I got delivery in July, and then that same month they announced the Performance one coming out, and I was like, dude, you can't just spend $50,000+ and not have like the best one, or the fastest one. So I had to upgrade. Thankfully, my brother-in-law took over. And then about 8 or 9 months later, I wanted to get a Model X, and I found a really killer deal. It was a showroom model sitting in Florida, and was able to call up my brother-in-law that took my original Model 3, and he was like, hey, I'll take your Performance Model 3. So I essentially sold him 2 Model 3s. So that's kind of my journey. But yeah, so getting into like the first car, I mean, the biggest change, right, is how simplistic it is, how simplistic the design is, how many, like, just there's not many buttons or things to press. And then also too, just, when you turn on Navigate on autopilot, I drove before COVID 70 miles a day, and 95% of my drive was literally on Navigate on autopilot. And I'm a father to 3 kids, and I would get home, and you just like, so you get off a long day at work, you get home and you're actually still stressed out from all the stop and go. But with Tesla, that completely goes away. Like, I actually unwind. I'm still obviously completely aware of what's going on, but it just takes away that edge of just like sitting in the stop and go, and like kind of like what is it, like Groundhog Day every day, right? Or what is it, Office Space? All those movies, just like, so it just completely changes the game on how you operate, how you actually think of a car. I think obviously too, like, I'm no longer, when I would drive my gas car down to LA, it's about a 5-hour drive. It would just be a straight shot, get there as soon as possible, gas up, no bathroom breaks if possible, just get there. But with a Tesla, it just becomes like, you're no longer trying to get there as fast as possible, because 1, you have to charge, and 2, again, you don't have that edge of just like being exhausted by the time you get to your final destination. So it's just, it's completely changed the way I think and view cars, right? Navigate on autopilot, obviously before FSD Beta, was just the biggest game changer, right? I mean, obviously the fact that it has all the software updates, that's huge. Like, I don't have to go to a dealership to get a software update. I'm getting it at home, service free, and it's just getting better. There was like, acceleration boosts, some range improvements, and then just a bunch of games coming, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, all that stuff is literally there. And so from top to bottom, it's just like a better car. I could go on for days about this, but specifically the technology is what separates it. And so that's why, you've been an investor for 5 years, but for me, like, that's literally, I was like, dude, this is a game changer. This is something completely different than all the rest of the companies. And, thankfully, because you were an early owner, or if you were an early owner, you just see something that no one else will see, right? And I think what was it, 2017? Who knows how many cars were sold at that point before the Model 3 came out? Maybe like 300,000 or 400,000, if that. And so only 300,000 or 400,000 people really understood what it was. Sure, there was a bunch of test drives, but most of those the S and X weren't affordable for the average person, right? And obviously the Model 3 is, it was still a stretch, but now they passed 1 million cars, but really that's only 1 million people that really truly understand, how big of game changer these cars are, right? And now, fast forward to 2021, today we literally are at a 52-week high. The company is almost worth as much as Facebook, which is mind-blowing, where it could barely hold a market cap of 50 billion. And we've really turned a page, right? Sorry on the huge rant.
No worries, man. A lot of good information. Yeah, when I first sat down in a Tesla, and I feel like a bunch of people have this experience as well. It's like you're kind of like at shock. You don't know what's going on.
Yep.
Like, is this really a car? It's like, where's the
Yep.
knobs? Where's the buttons? Where's the levers? And everything's so simple, so clean. And it's just like, oh yeah. And then just things just start to make sense. And it's just like what they're doing is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, and just it's over there updates. They just make everything so convenient. They're always asking for your input. Elon's very active on Twitter, asking for input, and that's the best way to please your consumers is to get feedback. And Tesla, they really focus on the consumer themselves. It's pretty good what they're doing.
The only other brand that I saw that really changed, and like Elon, probably more so though, right? Was John Legere from T-Mobile. He re-transformed the whole phone industry and took it really to its, but he was one of the only CEOs that I know that had such a connection with his customer base, where he understood what they felt, what they thought. And Elon Musk is the only other person that I feel that has that true understanding. Obviously completely different business models, but one of the only CEOs that I can even think of that had the same type of customer involvement was John Legere from T-Mobile, and how he took that company from nothing to something.
Right, and those big leaps, it's like you have to dramatically, it's a big step change. It's not just, you got to have the whole environment of your company to think that way. And I think that's exactly what Elon's done with the first principles thinking. Yeah, and if you could just talk about the progression that you've seen. So now we'll kind of get into the autopilot stuff, and then we'll talk about obviously FSD Beta down the road. But let's just talk about like we already touched upon it a little bit with autopilot, but how about the progression that you've seen over the last couple years with autopilot and safety, and where you think it's going to go forward?
Yeah, so when I started on Navigate on autopilot, it was really just one lane. And that one lane, it would literally just stay in the one lane. And that in itself in traffic was a game changer. And then it wasn't until they launched Navigate on autopilot where it literally would take you from one exit and on ramp to your own exit, right? So it would take you on the highway, it would take you off the highway, it would transfer. But there's been just tons of improvement, especially with FSD Beta, especially on Navigate on autopilot, because it switches, back before or between the two. But it's just, I think when I first got it, it was, there were still a lot of things that it really needed to work on, little kinks like phantom braking, which I think, we've seen a lot less of, especially on FSD Beta. that I think has maybe happened once or twice, and I put hundreds and hundreds of miles on it, whereas it was a little bit more frequent. And the phantom braking, what I mean by that is it would assume that a car is kind of like coming into your lane, so it would just brake when you're going like 50, 60 miles an hour. So it was almost kind of like bull riding. But it's just it's made huge inroads on just how it interacts with other cars, the full picture. Like in FSD Beta, like I see my 4 lanes plus the 4 lanes on the other side of the highway. Like it literally is tracking and thinking of everything. I've been at a 4-way stop sign, and it literally or stop light, and it can track all 16 lanes that are just like 4 lanes going each direction.
Okay, so here we actually have a 4-way stop. Oh, this is great. Got a car that just came, and then we have another car that literally just got here before us. It's going straight, so it let everyone clear. But
and as that has happened, as the software has been updated, and as they've been updating the code, it's just gotten a ton more safer, especially navigate on autopilot, to the point where I feel very comfortable. Especially so if you got rid of FSD Beta, navigate on autopilot, I feel very good about it. I still think it has room for improvement, especially like during traffic hour, trying to get over from the carpool lane all the way to the exit. But for the most part, like I literally have 0 disengagements. I think it's just, again, it's about being aware, right? I think that's the biggest thing but it's made huge leaps and bounds from even in 2017, 2018.
Right, and that's what impresses me the most for sure. Again, I've only had my Model 3 since August of last year, and just these 5-6 months, the rate of improvement is phenomenal. Every time it's getting slightly better and better and better. Yeah,
Yep.
navigate on autopilot's a great feature, stress-free lane changing, and it's getting so much better figuring out which lane is faster, where it should go, merging on and off the highway. It's pretty good stuff.
Same thing with smart summons. Yeah, so smart summon is the same thing, right? When it first came out, it would literally go across lanes, across people's paths, across like the opposite traffic's path. But literally since its initial release, and after all the data has fed into it, after so many smart summons, now it actually stays to the side of traffic that it's supposed to be on. So like when it'll come out and make a left, it won't just like cut halfway through the parking lot. It will stay in the lane and then come on the side that it's supposed to be on. So there's just like a lot of those things that are, and I think the biggest thing also too with autopilot and smart summon is all the data, right? So you've had it 5 months. Every time you log on to navigate on autopilot, it is feeding the beast. It is feeding into their artificial intelligence database, and it's getting better. Not only in Boston where you are, but it's taking all those scenarios and it's feeding it into the broader one. And they're just utilizing the AI to really dictate how it moves, how it predicts whether it should go over to the lane. But yeah, so I think those are the biggest things.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't really understand that's how artificial intelligence learn. I mean, that's exactly how humans learn. We didn't just start walking. We try to walk, fell, and same thing with riding a bike. You learn, and that's exactly how you learn. Neural nets. That's basically you fail, you learn, you correct it, then you train the neural net once again, and that's how it gets better. And the more data, the data advantage is the huge thing that Tesla is picking up on. So yeah, let's dive into FSD Beta more. Yeah, let's talk about the first day that you got FSD Beta and your first initial impressions and all the excitement.
Yeah. So I was literally the first person probably on Twitter, other than a guy named Brandon, that literally got it. I think it was the 21st of October. As we know, Tesla fired their PR department. So as we talked about, I think at the beginning of the conversation, we're it, right? This is why you started a channel. It's, we're it. So I So it's kind of it's crazy. When I got the call that they selected me, and they could have selected anybody and their mom, but they for some crazy reason chose me. I had no idea what to expect. It's beta. It wasn't even alpha, but it like all I knew is some of the things that Elon had mentioned. Hey, I could get in my car and drive to work with pretty much no engagements, but I had no idea what to expect. But I set the bar very low because I just didn't know what to expect. And I called up my friend Tesla Raj. He's actually part of our board as well. And I was like, hey man, I just got FSD Beta. I need video, so you're it. And so he came over, and so we both got to experience it. But literally, I turned it on, and the first place I selected was Target, which was like 2 or 3 miles away from my house. And I literally, it comes with some instructions, but not. It's just like all you get or hear about is be super cautious. It may do stuff at the weirdest times or the craziest times. And so like when they call you and ask you if you want to be a part of the program, ask like, are you a safe driver? But again, like, are you going to be extra cautious? Are you okay with the fact that it could go make a left when it should make a right? Like, so you're expecting like all these like crazy scenarios. But when I launched it and when it did that first like 5 to 7 minutes, it completely blew my mind. And I think what we had experienced, so for those that don't know the difference between navigating on autopilot and FSD Beta, is that navigating on autopilot could only handle street lights, stop signs, and only going straight. It had never made a left or right hand turn, right? Like, I mean, there's probably edge cases out there, but it was not supposed to do that. So the biggest thing was making its first left turn. And I think, I posted the video on Twitter, and that's when Elon responded, haha. And like, it literally made a left turn and in a neighborhood, right? So
here we come up to the first turn, dude.
No.
Blinker is on, dude.
Blinker's on.
My mind is about to be blown, bro. Okay, here
No
we go.
way.
Oh, no way, dude.
Oh, it paused to look.
It paused to look, dude.
Not only, so highways are hard, right? Highways are hard to figure out how to like make that operate, right? So navigate on autopilot for sure. But what was even harder is a neighborhood. How do you know what side of the lane to stay on? How do you know where the curbs are? How do you deal with trash cans, construction, pedestrians, cars on the side of the road, cars that are driving but then just pull over? Like, it's a whole different dynamic that is way harder because, again, there's no lanes, right? And so it was so much better than I thought it was going to be. So like, I think it's just because I didn't know what to expect, right? And even now, I'll be honest, I totally feel spoiled right now because it's like, I'm probably one of out of all the YouTubers, but mainly specifically all the people that have driven with me, I push it to the edge of like, I will get as close to the car as I can. I'll let it do kind of whatever just so it can learn as much before I disengage. So I've freaked out a couple people before, but yeah, it's wild. I mean, literally, so the big things, making a left-hand turn in a neighborhood, never been done before. Making an unprotected left-hand turn where I can't even see out, right? Especially so over by my place, there's a hill. So I'm kind of still tucked back. So unless I'm like literally like leaning in and looking out, I still can't even see it. So it made a left-hand turn.
Here we are making a left, and it's seeing the biker, and it's obviously being very, 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 very cautious. Okay. And because the corner is pretty, you can't really see around it, it is being very cautious, which is, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's great. Okay. There's cars over here, so it's gonna go around.
Being able to see stuff I can't even see. So it's just, it has more eyes. It's obviously further away, or because all the cameras are at the front of the nose, and then at the top of your of kind of where your cameras are, your rearview mirror is. But I think those were the biggest things, right? And then we did a roundabout. I did all that in the first 24 hours. I did a roundabout.
car just came, and it's gonna go. You can definitely see it plays a little bit more of the cautious role here.
One of the guys that I knew jumped in front of the car. It stopped.
All right, stop sign. It's gonna go through.
Oh, person.
Oh, what? It freaking stopped, dude. What?
See the person crossing the street?
And it's resetting.
So I tried out as much as I could, and again, it was just from a beta standpoint, it was just 100 times better than I ever thought it would be. Not that I didn't, that I doubted Elon, but you know, I was just expecting like the worst. And even if I was expecting the best, it still would have been way better than even expecting like the best of what I thought it could have been.
Right, and that's what I was impressed about as well, is the quantum leap that Tesla pulled off, basically going from navigate on autopilot, mostly used on highways and stuff, and then autopilot, which on city streets you can't really have too much flexibility unless you're going straight, or once it splits into two lanes, that's when you get into issues where it's trying to figure out which lane it should be in. My prediction on FSD Beta was going to be kind of like all these trigger things that you need to do, kind of like with the gear stalk or the accelerator, you know, say it's going to come up to a green light and then you kind of need to get the gear stalk, and just the absolute quantum leap that they did. And they really pushed the envelope for self-driving cars in the future. So we talked about all the good things that the FSD Beta has. What are some of the things that you think it needs to work on or needs to get better on, or you think will have difficulties accomplishing?
Yeah, so I think, I'll kind of go similar to what Elon says, 2 steps forward, 1 step back on every update. So I think some of the nuances, right? There's some of the things that it does now that it didn't do before. I would be on a city street, it would make a left onto a neighborhood, and it's still going 35 miles an hour. So I think those were the big things that it really needed to make a change on. That it was assuming that Tesla, or it was assuming that it was still 35 miles an hour. So it wasn't, it shouldn't be doing that. And then it was also one of those things where you'll go up to a light and there will be a left-hand turn lane and a right-hand turn lane, right? And sometimes it'll actually go into the left lane. And then it'll like cut over back once it realizes it's in the wrong lane. But a lot of that, again, is sending the data back into the system to allow it to get better. So those were things I was dealing with initially. Sometimes it will deal with that, and sometimes it won't deal with that, right? Yeah, sometimes it'll get better, and then sometimes like I'll get a new update, and the next thing I know, it'll actually be on that same turn it used to be able to do. It can't do it anymore. So I think, again, I think those are probably the biggest areas of, you know, it's just like those edge cases too. Like I was in a construction zone the other day and they had blocked off the left-hand turn and it still wanted to make a left-hand turn, but I had to disengage because it literally just it did not realize like there was like a cement. It realized that because it was a weird thing. It was like cones, right? There was cones and then a small little like cement thing and then cones. So it wasn't like a full wall. If it was a full wall, it would just like obviously not try to turn. So I think the biggest areas of improvement are going to be those edge cases. Again, you know, sometimes it'll get confused. Like I think, I don't know how, all the streets are in Boston. There'll be like a one-way road each way, but then a middle turn lane. Sometimes it'll think that that middle turn lane is like a road. And so a lot of times, you know, I'll have to disengage. One thing, you know, I was just in some snow, not crazy snow conditions by Boston standards, but you know, the snow was pushed all the way to the right? You know, they just like plowed all the way to the right. But because the visibility is kind of bad, it'll just assume that it needs to be in between the snow on the far right and then whatever lane it can see. So then it's almost kind of like driving like where it shouldn't be. So those are just things that like will just get better over time, but are big areas that still need to be improved. But yeah, so I think those were probably like the 3 or 4 big things that I think that still need to improve.
Right, and just to give people on a little insight on how Tesla learns. So basically, every time you either disengage or you do something that's drastically different than what the Tesla autopilot is doing, it'll send that information back to the Tesla team or engineers, and then they'll reanalyze the situation, make some tweaks, and then they'll be able to retrain the network. Are you specifically talking to the engineers at Tesla? Because I know Kim said she's had some back and forths. She's sending videos to them and talking to them about some of the improvements. Are you dealing with them at all?
Yeah. So anyone that's in the early access program has direct access to an email thread, but I may not be dealing with, a guy named Jordan over there, right? You're dealing kind of with the whole team, and there's this like email address that you can essentially send feedback to. So I've had some scenarios, in some situations where I literally had to send them an email, hey, improve X, Y, and Z. And then they'll respond back. And some of the improvements they've made, some of them are still probably coming. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, right, I don't know, I think you were kind of alluding to it, is every FSD beta tester, and I think early access, has a little button at the top of their screen that they can click, and it will save that information. And then when you get to Wi-Fi, it literally sends it to them. So kind of like you were saying on the disengagements and, on anything that kind of is pretty radical, it will send it back up the feed, and then it'll upload all those videos to them. And I think that's also one of the things you write off is like obviously all the privacy, because I have an X, so my X does not have an inside camera in it. But if you're a 3 driver and something, let's say, crazy will happen, they will get even the internal camera footage as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I know you got another meeting come up soon, but let's hear some FSD or self-driving robotaxi predictions from your thoughts, whether it's going to be Tesla. Do you think Tesla's going to be there, or is there any more sensors needed? When do you think robotaxi is eventually going to happen?
Well, like full autonomy, you mean? Or like, because I think there was a report out that they'll have some drivers there as an FYI, even though it'll be like.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to do that right now. So like, let's just say I want to go to a bar, and I'll be able to request a Tesla to pick me up and drop me off at a bar 10 minutes away.
Will a person be in the car or not, or do you care? Or
no, driverless. Yeah, let's do driverless.
Okay, so as far as kind of, I think going back to your first question, I think Tesla will be the leader, period. And what I mean by that is Waymo is only good in Mountain View and Arizona, and those are good, easy conditions. But they've taken a picture of every rock and ant that exists in those areas. Whereas Tesla is being able, with their camera system, it is filtering and looking through their lens, and it's able to make predictions and assumptions based off of everything it sees. When it sees a human, it's actually predicting, okay, is this person going to come out in the crosswalk or not? And so because of that, their system is so much more scalable on any type of condition than any others. And obviously snow's the edge case right now, but if I went to Hawaii versus Florida versus California versus New York, and let's say that the conditions are decent, I don't need to take a picture of every rock and ant there, right? Whereas with Waymo, they have to do that. They have to take so many photos and fit in their system. And so they're so far ahead of that. So as far as like full autonomy, I still think, before like being able to literally call, I still think we're several 3 to 4 years away, partially because of regulations. But as far as like literally the robo-taxi, I think we'll probably see it within the next year, maybe 2. I think FSD Beta will hopefully get into wider release probably, by this first half. I think people, as you said, right, it's the whole NN thing, right, neural nets, is that people need to be able to let the system play out and do what it needs to do. it just, they need to be able to let it test itself out, right? Like, you didn't learn to walk yesterday, right? You had a couple big falls, and so people need to allow that to happen and go forward before, because everyone and their mom's asking for it right now, right? But like, people need to just chill, sit back, and just, Tesla will reach out if you've been selected. And if you've been selected, then, you know, they have, you know, you've passed whatever X, Y, and Z requirements, and then they'll go from there.
Right. Yeah, and I'm kind of along the same lines with you compared to Waymo. You know, they might be driverless or autonomous in a few different cities, you know, perfect conditions and stuff like that, but you really want the global aspect, and that's where Tesla is heading towards. You know, you don't need some high resolution maps, and it's very generic based. You
Yep.
know, it doesn't need to drive this road before like a Waymo does. They basically need to pay all their engineers, you know, probably six figures just to drive around the block, capturing data and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, Tesla has the main advantage. They have all the data, they have the neural nets. We're learning fast, and yeah, it's very, very exciting future for Tesla and electric vehicles and autonomous driving. Is there any closing remarks that you have? Anything that we didn't touch upon that you want to
Yeah, I
talk
mean,
about?
no, I think, you know, if you're watching, if you, you know, again, full self-driving beta, it'll come when it's supposed to come. I mean, even if it's 99% of the way there, that 1% will make or break the company. And like, if you have one horrible accident, I mean, there's been several, I think, on autopilot, but people just need to wait. It'll come, but it's a very exciting future when you think of Tesla. I mean, I think we're just at the beginning of this, right? Like, sure, they just broke 180,000, but they got 2 gigafactories going on. I wouldn't be surprised if they open up an Australia office, gigafactory out there, or another one in China. I mean, who knows? But there's just so many things like the robo-taxi, the app store that they'll eventually launch, gaming, right? The Politopia, it's going to be multiplayer. The full self-driving subscription model. There's just so many things that are still haven't come, and I know that the future valuation is based off of that future, but there's just so much that the public still does not know about Tesla that I don't even think is baked into the valuation, right? And it, like, here we are in 2021, and this company's worth like 50 billion, or sorry, 70 billion less than Facebook, and one is like the best advertising company in the world, and then this is like a company that's only produced 500,000 cars versus like Ford's doing 20 million. That's a horrible comparison because Tesla is not a is not a car company, right? It's a technology company. Amazon is not a bookstore company, right? It's it's a store on, you know, on your internet, right? It's more than that now. They do pretty much everything. The Amazon Cloud, movies, music, everything, right? Amazon Originals, all that stuff, and it's continuing to grow. I think they're going into medicine now, right? You can get your medicine shipped to your door. There's just so many things that they're doing. And so it's the same thing with Tesla, right? They have a platform on wheels that they can unleash at any point in time and monetize at any point in time.
Yeah, I think that's where we get so excited as users. You know, we see what they've done in the last few years.
Yep.
And it's just like, imagine what they can do in 5 years, 10 years. Sky's literally the limit with this company, and I'm very excited for what they have going forward.
Yep.
How they really push the envelope, automotive, electric vehicles, batteries. Again, man, thank you for your time. I appreciate everything you're doing for the Tesla community. And yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks for hitting me up, and all the best during these, stay safe and healthy during these times.
You too, man. Take care. Thank you.